What do we do when we get stuck? And of course, how do we get unstuck, right? So in our breakout rooms, we talked about our challenge, and I'm going to use that word for the place where we felt stuck, right? Because that's if we frame it to ourselves, perhaps as a challenge. Maybe it's something that we can feel that we can tackle. So you can, of course, get stuck anywhere in the design process. And of course, everyone gets stuck, right? Everyone fails, as we said before, everyone gets stuck. And it's a question of just figuring out how to navigate that and move through it. And one way, and I think some of you already tapped into this in your comments in the chat about looking to others or getting perspectives, is that you can look to others. This is my level of art ability, so I apologize for that. But these are supposed to be little people, and they're supposed to be asking questions and thinking about all these different maybe parts of the design cycle and different things. So for the next part of the activity, we're going to use a different kind of technique. It's something actually that Glenda and I had an experience with and thought we would bring to this group. It was in a session led by this gentleman here, Hal Gregerson, who talked about something called the question burst. And he wrote a book called Questions Are the Answer, among other scholarship that he's done. And the question burst, which we'll be trying out today, is a technique for exploring these kinds of challenges and getting unstuck. So here's how it's going to work. During the question burst, we're going to set a timer for 4 minutes. And during that time, we are going to ask nothing but questions. So it seems pretty straightforward, but I'll explain a bit more. There's 2 rules. The first rule is no preamble before a question. So you can't sort of say, well, I'm going to say a bunch of sentences and then I'm going to get to my question. Can't do that. It's easier said than done, but really it's just the question. And the second rule is no answers after a question. That seems, it's sort of an interesting one to have a whole bunch of questions without answers. But in a way, it can be very freeing, because this is really a form of a brainstorm. And during a brainstorm, we're trying to go wide, again, go wild, as Jennifer said. This is sort of, sometimes when you're stuck, you need to get unstuck by widening your perspective and thinking about things perhaps differently than you did before. So no preamble before those questions. So the questions are very crisp, very precise, very specific, and no answers. The person cannot answer the questions. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to put you into breakout rooms in your pairs with one other pair. So you'll have 2 pairs together in a breakout room. You can decide amongst yourselves who goes first. For right now, I'll just call them pair number 1. So we have pair number 1 and pair number 2. So pair number 1 will get 2 minutes maximum to share their challenge, share their where they feel stuck. So you can contextualize that by doing a very quick version of your snapshot, which you've now thought about in order to understand the challenge. And then you're going to specify your challenge. It's going to be very brief. It's not a long explanation. And don't over-explain. Hal Gregerson made this wonderful comment. He said, don't back people into your corner. I thought that was very wise. If you over-explain your problem, you're giving everyone else the same constraints that you're thinking of. But if you just leave it as it is, you might get some interesting answers. Then we'll switch, and for 4 minutes, we'll all ask questions. That can be people in your group, in the pair, but mostly probably the listeners, to ask questions. Again, the whole point is to get other people's perspectives. Remember, no preambles and no answers. The other piece is that the first pair will write down all of the questions, word for word, if you can. And the reason is that, again, this is a form of brainstorming, and those may trigger you to think of things you hadn't thought before. Some questions you may feel are more relevant than others. Some questions may spark something in the moment. Just write them all down. You're not evaluating the questions. You're not responding to the person. You're just listening to the questions. You're taking it all in. pauses and quiet during this time, during the 4 minutes, are perfectly fine. Don't feel you have to fill the time. If time goes by and then a new question comes up, great. At the end of this, you might have somewhere like 15 to 20 questions. You may have more, you may have slightly less, but shoot for something, you know, a high number like this. Then at the end of that time, we'll switch. Oh, I think a piece got missing. So we'll shift, sorry, there we go, to pair number 2. And pair number 2 will repeat the process. Then they will have 2 minutes to share their challenge, and then 4 minutes for questions. Does this make sense? So far, so good? We're gonna show you an example of what this looks like. So I've enlisted Glenda and Ruchi to help out here. So Ruchi, you are going to pretend to be pair number 1, you and your imaginary partner, and then Glenda and I will be pair number 2. So let's give it a practice go.
Okay. So what we are trying to develop is a game of mathematics for multiplication and division. And in this game, students will be using blocks and models to represent multiplication and division situation. But the challenge that we are facing is, what if students use addition and subtraction to solve these multiplication and division problems, and they do not make sense of multiplication itself. So what will we do there? That is our situation. Go.
Okay, so you would have had a full 2 minutes. For the purpose of today, we'll shorten it. And now we're going to pretend to start the 4 minutes. So Glenda and I will now do that part.
Yeah. Do you want me to have white screen and write the question, or just...
Why don't you just do it by hand for now, if you want to?
Okay.
And then in the session, you can decide. People can just have maybe paper and pencil, or type them on a notepad in their computer. Okay. So now we'll start just a mini version of the questions. Okay.
Are your problems difficult or easy that you're giving them in the game?
I'm not supposed to answer.
Don't answer. Just write it down.
Do you want to alternate, Judy? Is that how we should do this?
Whatever comes naturally.
Okay.
Are the blocks set up in such a way that it seems like I'm supposed to add them or subtract them? Is there something on the screen that suggests a certain way I might manipulate them, move them around?
Do students work together in the game?
Can you repeat, Glenda?
Do students work together or collaborate during the game?
Do you have anything similar you've done outside the game where you've had success with getting students to multiply, or similarly where they were doing the same techniques and maybe you have some ideas from other sources?
Do students have to explain what they're doing as they use the manipulatives?
Mm-hmm.
Are they actually told try not to just use addition and subtraction? Is that a technique that would be appropriate to guide them?
How many times do they get to practice this?
Are the students aware that they're doing something that you're trying not to have them do? Do they even know there are alternate methods?
Is speed a component of the game so that it would make more sense to add quickly rather than multiply?
Have you modeled anywhere earlier an example of using multiplication or division to show what you want, what kinds of behavior you want? Okay, I think that's probably enough modeling for now. Thank you to my team for showing. So I don't know, can you a quick count? How many questions roughly did we have? Did you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 questions.
Okay,
and they
so we
do
got
give me a lot of food for thought. Yeah.
Okay, so that was 10 questions for us to try out. And of course, that wasn't even the full 4 minutes. So that's how it will work. So what do you do as the questioner? Ask short, tough questions. So you want, you know, the hard questions are actually, Hal Gregerson said, the best gift you can give someone to get them thinking about it. But of course, we're all, you know, going back to last week, be kind and be curious. Don't ask, you know, ask non-toxic questions. Make sure the questions feel kind and so that receptive enough. So they can be tough, but they can not go so far overboard. But compelling questions, things that really, I think, get to the heart of what it is that we're looking for.